In the unforgiving expanse of the Old West, where law and justice often walked a razor's edge, a simple act of kindness would echo through the years in a way no one could have predicted. On a dusty afternoon, a humble farmer crossed paths with a shackled prisoner, a man burdened not only by chains but by a past stained with hardship and regret. Without hesitation, the farmer offered him a piece of bread, a gesture so small yet so profound that it would set into motion a story of loyalty, redemption, and protection that would forever change their lives. What seemed like a fleeting moment of mercy would grow into a bond strong enough to muster an army in defense of family and honor. That prisoner, bound and vulnerable, accepted the bread with eyes full of gratitude and a heart silently transformed. The farmer's compassion defied the harsh codes of the West, where mercy was rare and suspicion ruled. Yet, in this fleeting exchange, a seed of trust was planted, a seed that would bloom into something powerful and unexpected. Years later, when threats loomed over the farmer's family and land, it was that very man who rose not as a prisoner, but as a protector, leading a force fierce and unyielding to defend what mattered most. This story is more than a tale of survival and struggle. It is a testament to the strength found in forgiveness and the unexpected alliances forged by acts of kindness. In a world where reputations were made and broken by the swing of a gun, the farmer's choice to give bread instead of judgment changed the course of destiny. It challenges us to look beyond appearances and past mistakes to find the humanity that binds us all. As the sun set over the rugged plains, casting long shadows on a land that had seen countless battles and betrayals, the farmer and the man with the shackles became symbols of something greater, a reminder that loyalty and honor often come from the most unlikely places. Their story beckons us to question what we might accomplish if we chose compassion over condemnation, and how far the power of mercy can reach. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear is not just history. It's a powerful journey of redemption, courage, and the unbreakable bonds that rise from the simplest acts of kindness in the wild, relentless West. The farmer, named Amos, was a man weathered by years of toil on the unforgiving plains, his hands rough but his heart unexpectedly tender. He had seen the harshness of the West, the shootouts, the betrayals, the endless struggle to carve a life from the wild land. Yet, despite all this, Amos held on to a quiet belief in the goodness that could still be found in people. When he encountered the shackled prisoner, a man whose weary eyes spoke of regret and lost chances, Amos's instinct was not to turn away, but to offer what little he had, a simple piece of bread. It was a gesture that broke through the barriers of suspicion, an invitation to humanity in a world that often seemed devoid of it. The prisoner, whose name was Ezekiel, accepted the bread with trembling hands, the act rekindling a flicker of hope he thought long extinguished. Shackled and broken, Ezekiel's past was marked by mistakes and misfortune, yet in that moment, something shifted, a silent promise that he could still find redemption. The two men exchanged no grand words, only a shared glance heavy with unspoken understanding. This small act of kindness planted a seed that would grow beyond their lifetimes, intertwining their fates in a way neither could foresee. In the days that followed, Amos continued his work on the farm, but his mind often wandered back to the prisoner. The West was a place where survival trumped sentiment, yet Amos felt compelled to believe that mercy could be more powerful than judgment. As the seasons changed and the prisoner's fate took shape in the court and beyond, the memory of that moment lingered, a quiet testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unexpected paths that forgiveness can carve. Meanwhile, Ezekiel endured his punishment, but the memory of Amos's kindness stayed with him, a beacon in the darkest hours of confinement. It became a turning point, igniting a resolve to change his path, to honor the faith shown to him by a stranger. That resolve carried him through hardships, through doubts and despair, until fate brought him back to Amos's world, no longer as a prisoner, but as a man transformed by gratitude and loyalty. The West had always been a place of harsh realities, but this story began to rewrite the rules. Where once chains bound Ezekiel, now a sense of purpose and belonging took hold. And when danger threatened Amos's family and land years later, it was Ezekiel who stood ready, not just as a man seeking redemption, but as a protector leading an army forged from respect, honor, and a debt repaid in the fiercest loyalty. Years had passed since that day Amos shared his bread, and the landscape of their lives had shifted in ways neither man could have imagined. Ezekiel, once a prisoner shackled by his past, had rebuilt himself into a man of strength and principle, earning the respect of those who once might have shunned him. His journey was marked by hardship and hard-earned wisdom, but the bond with Amos remained unbroken, a silent thread woven through the fabric of their intertwined destinies. The farm that Amos tended was no longer a solitary outpost. It had become a symbol of resilience and trust, a place where loyalty was repaid with unwavering protection. The threat came suddenly, a ruthless band of outlaws, seeking to seize land and power by force, descended upon the region. Amos's family and farm stood in their path, vulnerable and unprepared for the coming storm. Yet, as danger closed in, Ezekiel's presence was a beacon of hope. He called upon allies, men bound by honor and respect, forming an army not of mercenaries, but of brothers in arms ready to defend what was rightfully theirs. This was no mere militia. It was a force galvanized by the memory of kindness and the fierce loyalty it inspired. The battle that unfolded was brutal and unrelenting, echoing the harshness of the land itself. Ezekiel led with a fierce determination born from years of struggle and the deep gratitude he felt toward Amos. Each man fought not just for survival, but for the values and bonds that had transformed their lives. Guns roared, horses thundered, and amidst the chaos, the unbreakable spirit of loyalty and redemption shone brightest. The army Ezekiel commanded was more than a fighting force. It was a living testament to the power of mercy and the strength it breeds. When the dust settled, the outlaws were driven away, their greed and cruelty no match for the unity and resolve of those who fought to protect their own. Amos's farm stood battered but unbroken, a fortress of hope and resilience. Ezekiel, once a prisoner shackled by past mistakes, now stood as a guardian and leader, embodying the profound transformation that kindness can ignite. Their story had become a legend, a reminder that even in the wild, unforgiving West, loyalty born from compassion can muster an army. But their journey was far from over. The West was a land of shifting alliances and constant challenges, and the bond between Amos and Ezekiel would continue to be tested. Yet, through every trial, the memory of that simple act, a piece of bread shared on a dusty afternoon, remained a guiding light, proving that sometimes the greatest strength lies in the smallest acts of humanity. As the years passed, Ezekiel's reputation grew far beyond the borders of Amos's farm. The man once shackled and scorned had risen to become a leader of unmatched respect, known not for his past mistakes, but for the courage and loyalty he inspired in those who followed him. His army was not composed of mere hired guns, but of men who believed in the cause that bound them together, a cause rooted in honor, protection, and repayment of a kindness that had changed one man's life forever. Ezekiel moved with quiet authority, a living testament to how redemption could transform even the most broken souls into champions of justice. Amos, meanwhile, continued to toil on his land, his heart fortified by the presence of a man who had once been a prisoner but now stood as his greatest defender. Their bond transcended words, forged in the fire of hardship and strengthened by unwavering trust. The farm itself became a symbol of that transformation, a place where past wounds were healed, and the future was built on a foundation of mercy and mutual respect. Neighbors and travelers spoke in awe of the farmer and the man who led an army to protect his family, a story whispered like a legend carried on the winds. However, the peace they fought for was fragile. Rival factions and envious landowners saw the growing power of Ezekiel's force as a threat to their own ambitions. Political intrigue and whispered betrayals began to weave a web of danger around Amos's farm. Ezekiel understood that leading an army was not only about strength in battle, but also wisdom in navigating the shifting allegiances of the West. He and Amos held council often, planning not just for defense, but for the preservation of the values that had saved them both. The tension mounted as threats loomed closer, Yet the community around Amos's farm rallied like never before. The men and women who had once lived scattered and isolated now found strength and unity, inspired by the story of a farmer's bread and a prisoner's loyalty. Their shared history became a beacon, illuminating a path through the uncertainty and reminding all that their greatest weapon was not just their rifles, but their commitment to each other and to the legacy born from kindness. In quiet moments between battles and planning, Ezekiel often reflected on the journey from prisoner to protector. The chains that once bound him had been replaced by a responsibility heavier than any metal, guarding the lives and hopes of those who had shown him mercy. And Amos, steady as ever, stood beside him, a reminder that even the smallest act could change the course of many lives in the wild, relentless West. The day came when a rival gang, emboldened by the growing influence of Ezekiel's army, launched a surprise attack on Amos's farm. It was a brutal clash, marked by the clash of steel and thunder of hooves that echoed across the plains. Ezekiel's men fought fiercely, their loyalty fueling every strike and every defense. But beyond the raw force of battle, it was the unbreakable spirit forged by years of trust and redemption that truly turned the tide. They were fighting not just for land or wealth, but for a promise made long ago, a promise that kindness could conquer even the darkest shadows. Amos, though no longer a man of war, played his part with quiet courage. His knowledge of the land and its people proved invaluable, guiding Ezekiel's forces through strategic advantages that the enemy could not anticipate. The family he sought to protect stood united, their strength drawn from the legacy of that simple loaf of bread and the loyalty it inspired. In the heat of battle, it was clear that this was more than a fight for survival. It was a battle for honor, for justice, and for the right to choose mercy over vengeance. As the sun set behind the distant hills, the dust settled on a hard-fought victory. The rival gang was driven away, their ambitions crushed beneath the united front of a farmer and a man once shackled, now a leader of an army. The farm, scarred but standing, became a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of compassion to not only change one life, but to inspire an entire community to rise and protect what they hold dear. In the aftermath, Ezekiel and Amos stood together, their bond deeper than ever. They knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The West was a place of constant challenge and change. But they also knew that the foundation of their strength lay in the mercy shown on a dusty afternoon, in the bread shared between two men who chose hope over hatred. That act had sparked a flame, one that now burned brightly enough to defend their future. Their story, carried by the winds and whispered in towns across the frontier, became a legend, a powerful reminder that even in the wildest and toughest lands, the smallest acts of kindness could grow into the mightiest forces. And as long as that flame burned, no shadow could ever extinguish the light born from mercy and loyalty. In the weeks that followed the battle, the farm became a place of renewed hope and resilience. The land, scarred by gunfire and hoofbeats, slowly began to heal, just as the people who tended it did. Ezekiel, once a man weighed down by chains and regrets, had transformed into a leader whose strength came not only from his sword arm, but from his heart. His army was no longer just a collection of fighters, but a brotherhood bound by shared hardship and a promise to protect those who had shown him mercy when no one else would. Each day, the men trained and prepared, knowing that threats still lurked in the shadows, but also feeling an unshakable confidence in the power of unity. Amos watched with quiet pride as Ezekiel took on this mantle, understanding that their lives were forever changed by a single act of kindness and the loyalty it had inspired. The community surrounding Amos's farm had grown tighter, woven together by the threads of shared struggles and triumphs. Neighbors brought supplies, repaired fences, and kept watch in the long, cold nights, each act of service reinforcing the bonds of trust. The fence that once stood lonely and bare was now adorned with symbols of generosity, gifts from those who had witnessed the power of compassion firsthand. Stories of the farmer who fed a shackled prisoner and the man who later led an army to defend his family traveled across the plains, inspiring others to look beyond past mistakes and believe in the redemptive power of mercy. It was a testament to the fact that even in the wild, unforgiving West, hope could be nurtured and flourish. Yet, with peace came new challenges. The growing influence of Ezekiel's force began to unsettle neighboring powers, and whispers of plots and schemes reached the farm. Amos and Ezekiel realized that protecting their family and community would require more than strength. It would demand wisdom, diplomacy, and an unyielding commitment to the principles that had brought them together. Meetings were held under the open sky, strategies were discussed by firelight, and alliances were forged with neighboring settlements. The farm was no longer just a home. It was the heart of a movement, a beacon of resilience, standing tall against the harsh realities of frontier life. Amid these pressures, Ezekiel often reflected on the journey that had led him from shackles to leadership. Every victory, every moment of solidarity, was rooted in that fleeting gesture of bread shared on a dusty road. The weight of his past no longer defined him. Instead, it fueled a determination to protect those who had given him a second chance. And Amos, steady and enduring, remained his anchor, a reminder that kindness, no matter how small, held the power to change destinies. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the plains, the farm stood as a living testament to the extraordinary power of mercy and loyalty. The story of the farmer and the prisoner had become legend, a beacon for all who believed that even in the wildest frontiers, the human heart could triumph over adversity and forge unbreakable bonds. The next season brought with it a chill that warned of harsher trials ahead. Rival factions, unsettled by the growing power and unity of Ezekiel's army, intensified their efforts to undermine the farm and its people. Threats were whispered in the saloons, spies lurked in the shadows, and provocations became more frequent. Yet, for every challenge they faced, the community's resolve only strengthened. The lessons born of hardship, mercy, and shared sacrifice had instilled a fierce loyalty that no threat could easily shake. Ezekiel and Amos stood united, their partnership a symbol of unwavering trust and determination. In the face of growing danger, Ezekiel's leadership shone brighter. He moved with the quiet authority of a man who understood the weight of his responsibility, not just to fight battles, but to protect a legacy. His army, once a disparate group of individuals, now functioned as a cohesive force, driven by a shared purpose and the memory of the kindness that had first bound them. Training intensified, and the men prepared for a confrontation they knew was inevitable. Yet beneath the surface, the spirit of mercy remained, a guiding light that tempered their strength with honor. Amos, despite his advancing years, remained the heart of the farm. His wisdom and calm steadied the community, reminding them of the values they fought to preserve. He taught that true strength lay not in domination, but in protection, not in vengeance, but in forgiveness. His simple act of sharing bread with a shackled prisoner had sparked a chain of events that reshaped not only his own life, but the lives of all who called that land home. Together, they weathered the storms of uncertainty with hope and courage. The tension finally culminated in a fierce showdown, an encounter that would test everything the farm and its defenders had built. The rival forces, confident and cruel, sought to crush the growing influence of Ezekiel's army. But what they faced was more than an armed militia. They faced a community forged by mercy and loyalty, a family bound by shared sacrifice and an unbreakable bond. The battle was brutal, yet every clash of steel and roar of gunfire echoed the deeper truth that kindness, once sown, could grow into a mighty shield. When the dust settled, the farm stood victorious, scarred but unyielding. The enemies were driven back, their threats silenced by the fierce unity of those who believed in something greater than themselves. Ezekiel and Amos, standing side by side, had proven that even in the wild, unforgiving West, the smallest acts of humanity could ignite the greatest fires of loyalty and strength. As the bitter chill of early winter settled over the plains once more, the farm stood as a fortress of hope and resilience amid the endless expanse of snow and hardship. Ezekiel, now fully recognized as a leader and protector, moved through his ranks with a quiet confidence born from battles fought and won. His men, bound by loyalty and respect, trained relentlessly, preparing for threats that might come with the changing seasons. Yet, Amid the harsh realities of the West, the spirit of mercy that had ignited this army remained the heart of their strength, a reminder that their unity was forged not only by bloodshed, but by shared humanity. Amos, watching from the warmth of his cabin, found solace in the transformation of both the land and the people who had come to call it home. The farm that once echoed with solitude now bustled with life and purpose, a testament to the enduring power of kindness and redemption. His simple act of giving bread to a shackled prisoner had sparked a revolution of loyalty that rippled outward, touching lives far beyond the boundaries of his fields. It was a legacy that would outlast seasons and storms, whispered in the wind and carried in the hearts of all who believed in second chances. But even as the community flourished, the West remained an unpredictable landscape, filled with rivalries and dangers lurking just beyond the horizon. Reports came of new threats, mercenaries hired by those jealous of Ezekiel's influence, lawmen whose allegiance could be bought or broken. Ezekiel and Amos knew that their fight was far from over. It would take every ounce of wisdom, courage, and compassion they had to protect their home and the family that had grown around it. The farm was more than soil and fence lines now. It was a symbol of what mercy could build even in the wildest frontiers. In the quiet moments between the storms, Ezekiel often thought back to the day Amos had broken bread with him, a gesture that had planted the seed for everything that followed. That simple act had given him a chance to rewrite his story and had inspired an army to rise not just for battle, but for honor and protection. It was a reminder that even the smallest kindness could change the course of history, that mercy had a power beyond measure. And it was this power that would continue to guide them through whatever trials awaited. As the winter moon cast its pale light over the snow-covered fields, the farm rested in a fragile peace. But beneath the stillness, the bond between Amos, Ezekiel, and their growing community remained strong, ready to face whatever the relentless West would bring next, standing united in the legacy of compassion and courage. Spring's first thaw brought new life to the barren land, and with it came renewed hope and a promise of brighter days. The farm, once scarred by conflict and hardship, began to bloom with the colors of growth and renewal. The men and women who had stood together in the face of adversity now looked forward with determination, ready to build a future rooted in the strength they had forged through mercy and loyalty. Ezekiel, now a figure of legend, continued to lead not only with skill, but with the humility of a man who understood the true cost of their journey. Amos, though aging, remained the steadfast heart of the community. His hands, once calloused by labor, now held the wisdom of experience and the quiet satisfaction of a life transformed. He knew that the legacy they had built was more than land or victory. It was the living proof that even in the harshest places, kindness could grow into something mighty. The fence, once lined with gifts, had become a symbol of that legacy, a testament to the enduring power of generosity that had brought them all together. Yet, with prosperity came the challenge of preserving what they had won. The West was ever-changing, and new threats, both from within and beyond, tested their resolve. Ezekiel and Amos worked tirelessly to strengthen alliances, protect their people, and ensure that the spirit of mercy remained at the core of their community. They understood that the true battle was not only against outside forces, but against the temptation to forget the lessons that had brought them this far. As the sun set over the rolling hills, casting long shadows across the land they loved, Ezekiel and Amos stood side by side, their eyes reflecting the struggles and triumphs of years past. They had journeyed from a moment of shared bread on a dusty road to leading an army that protected more than just a farm. It protected hope itself. Their story was a beacon for all who believed that even in the wildest frontiers, the bonds of kindness and loyalty could shape destinies. And so, as the night embraced the land, the farm rested not just on soil and stone, but on a foundation of compassion, courage, and an unbreakable promise, one born from the simplest act of humanity, forever lighting the way through the unforgiving West. The legacy of Amos and Ezekiel had by now woven itself into the very fabric of the frontier, transforming not only their farm, but the surrounding settlements into a network of solidarity and shared purpose. The story of a farmer's kindness and a prisoner's loyalty became more than a tale. It was a living truth that echoed through every windswept valley and sun-baked plain. Ezekiel's army, once a small band of men, had grown into a formidable force, not through fear or oppression, but through the respect and trust they had earned. Each man and woman who took up arms did so out of devotion to the principles Amos and Ezekiel stood for: protection, honor, and the belief that everyone deserves a chance at redemption. Yet even as their influence expanded, the challenges of the West remained relentless. New settlers arrived, drawn by the promise of fertile land and opportunity, but with them came fresh conflicts over boundaries and loyalties. Ezekiel and Amos faced these trials with the same wisdom and compassion that had defined their journey. They worked tirelessly to mediate disputes and foster peace, understanding that strength was meaningless without unity. The fence that once bore gifts from grateful neighbors now symbolized a community's collective resilience and unwavering commitment to one another. At the heart of this growing community was the bond between Amos and Ezekiel, a testament to how a single act of mercy could forge an unbreakable alliance. Their friendship transcended their pasts, becoming a beacon of hope for all who struggled to overcome the shadows of their histories. Ezekiel often reminded his men that it was not their weapons or numbers that made them strong, but the kindness and loyalty that bound them together. And Amos, with his quiet strength, stood as a living reminder that even in the harshest wilderness, the smallest gestures could change the course of many lives. In the evenings, as the prairie stretched beneath a canopy of stars, stories of their journey were shared around campfires, inspiring others to believe in the power of forgiveness and second chances. Children grew up hearing about the shackled prisoner who became a protector, and the farmer whose simple kindness lit a path through darkness. These tales were not just entertainment. They were lessons passed down, nurturing a spirit of compassion that would carry their legacy far beyond the borders of their land. Through trials and triumphs, Amos and Ezekiel's story endured, a powerful reminder that even in a world shaped by violence and struggle, mercy could cultivate strength, and loyalty born from grace was the greatest army of all. As twilight deepened and the land settled into a peaceful dusk, Amos and Ezekiel stood on the porch of the farmhouse, their gazes sweeping over the fields and forests they had fought so fiercely to protect. The farm was no longer just a place of work. It was a sanctuary, a symbol of what humanity could achieve when guided by kindness and honor. The road from a dusty encounter to commanding an army had been long and arduous, but it was paved with moments of courage, forgiveness, and unyielding faith in the goodness of others. Their journey was far from over. Life on the frontier was unpredictable and often brutal, but they faced the future with a steadfast resolve rooted in the lessons they had learned. They knew that the true strength of their legacy was not in the battles fought or land defended, but in the community they had built and the countless lives touched by their example. Amos's simple act of sharing bread had blossomed into a powerful force, proving that mercy could reshape destinies and create warriors of loyalty and honor. The farm's fence, once lined with humble gifts, now bore the marks of a thriving homestead: flowers, flags, and tokens from families who had found hope and protection within its bounds. It stood as a testament to the enduring impact of compassion, a daily reminder that even the smallest act could ignite a flame capable of illuminating the darkest corners of the West. This was the legacy Amos and Ezekiel would leave behind, a story whispered on the wind and etched into the hearts of all who believed. As night fell and the stars emerged, the two men shared a quiet moment of reflection, understanding that their lives were forever intertwined by fate and choice. Their story was a beacon for those who dare to believe in second chances, a powerful message that kindness could change not just a single life, but the course of history itself. And in the wild, untamed West, that message was the greatest hope of all. With the dawn yet to come, Amos and Ezekiel looked forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, confident that their bond, born of mercy and loyalty, would guide them through the trials of the frontier and beyond. In the harsh and wild expanse of the Old West, where every man's fate seemed carved by struggle and survival, the story of Amos and Ezekiel reminds us that true strength lies not just in muscle and firepower, but in mercy and loyalty. What began as a simple act, a piece of bread shared with a shackled prisoner, sparked a journey that would change lives and shape a community. Their story is proof that even in the darkest, most unforgiving places, kindness can ignite a legacy stronger than any army. This tale teaches us that redemption is possible, that no one is beyond hope, and that the smallest gestures can ripple through time, transforming not only individuals but entire futures. Amos's choice to show compassion instead of condemnation broke the chains of hatred and distrust, revealing the power of trust and humanity. Ezekiel's rise from prisoner to protector embodies the profound truth that the past does not define us. Our choices do. As you reflect on this journey, ask yourself, what acts of kindness might you extend in your own life? How can you be the spark that changes a story, heals a wound, or builds a bond where none seemed possible? This story challenges us to see beyond appearances and past mistakes, inviting us to embrace the power of forgiveness and courage in our own lives. If this story touched you, know that you are part of a greater community, one that values hope, strength, and the transformative power of compassion. Join us by subscribing to the channel, so you never miss stories that inspire and remind us of the best in humanity. Like the gifts left at Amos's fence, your support helps these stories grow and reach more hearts. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced or witnessed a moment where kindness changed everything? Your story could inspire someone today. Together, we can build a legacy of hope and courage, one powerful story at a time.